All right, a couple of breaking news things for you. I just want to say right off the bat, the White House just issued a statement saying that they are hopeful that the North Korea-South Korea talks will achieve progress toward peace and prosperity for the entire Korean peninsula. So they are watching the outcome of this very clearly, and so are we. The other breaking news story today is from the United States. American actor and comedian Bill Cosby has been found guilty on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. The jury in his retrial delivered the verdict in a Pennsylvania court this afternoon.
This is a victory not just for Andrea Constant, whom I consider to be the Joan of Arc in the war on rape.
Several of Cosby's accusers celebrated the verdict on the courthouse steps and praised the woman at the center of the case, Canadian Andrea Constant. She says Cosby drugged and sexually assaulted her in 2004 when she was working at Temple University in Philadelphia. The original trial last year ended with a hung jury. Joseph Marrone is a lawyer and legal analyst. He has followed this case extensively, and he joins me now via FaceTime from Philadelphia to share his thoughts. What was your reaction to this verdict?
My reaction was not surprised, given the way this trial, the second trial, evolved as far as the evidence and allowing, they call them the prior bad act witnesses or the additional victims. The judge this time allowed up to 5 victims to testify versus the 1 in the original trial. So I knew once that process started that it was going to be a rough road for Bill Cosby. Why
did you think it was going to be a rough road?
Well, I think first of all, you got to remember what started this whole process was the unsealing of the deposition transcript about 2 or 3 years ago. And when that was unsealed, about 60 women came forward. There was an enormous amount of press, which ultimately elevated and started the Me Too era. So that in itself, once these women came in and they told their story, and it was relatively consistent, all with the same storyline and premise that they were with Bill Cosby, and Bill Cosby would utilize some form of drugging, usually Quaaludes, and when he would engage in sex with them. All their stories were consistent, and he talks about that in his deposition transcript.
Okay. Do you see this verdict influencing any other charges to come up in the United States?
Without a doubt. I think this is the leading case. This is the tip of the iceberg. The Harvey Weinsteins of the world, the Matt Lauers, and all the other celebrities, or influential people. They're going to focus on the influential people, the people of power who have gotten away with this, who have abused women. This is the opportunity for them to now take a stance, and it's been brought to light today in this case. And there was a lot of other factors in this case that really kind of drove it, but the fact that these victims were allowed to testify really kind of got this thing going.
Yeah. Now, what about the influence of Me Too? You mentioned it. That's the backdrop here. How much influence do you think that had on the jury?
I think at this point, in the first trial was about 1.5 years ago, and the Me Too era was kind of just in its beginning stages. To Cosby's misfortune, it was a hung jury and it was tried again. The Me Too era really took shape because there was a lot of other celebrities or other influential people that were also accused of sexual assault. And it was really sensitized in not only this area, but the nation. And I think the jury was well aware of that. Now they were asked to put their views aside and to focus on this case, but you could feel the impact that it had. And I think it's only going to get stronger.
Do you think Joseph, do you think that the defense has a case for an appeal?
Well, here's the thing. The whole idea of allowing additional witnesses to come in and testify is a very dangerous situation because it's very prejudicial to the defendant. The defendant, obviously is charged with the crime, and you have to look at the evidence of that specific crime. When you start bringing other cases in that are not directly related, but trying to show a pattern, it's dangerous. You have 1, you have 2. The judge allowed 5. So that seems to be the biggest appealable issue. There were some other small issues of deposition transcripts of potential witnesses that could support the defense's theory that weren't allowed in. But other than that, I mean, the judge kind of gave rulings for the defense in return or in exchange for what he did with the prior bad act witnesses. Remember, the $3.4 million verdict was allowed into evidence. And more importantly, there was a witness, a Margot Jackson, who worked with the victim and corroborated Cosby's defense that she was really going after Cosby for his money, and she was really seeking him out for her own gain. The jury heard that testimony and rejected it.
Yeah. So Joseph, explain to the audience in Canada, if you will, under what circumstances you're allowed to do that kind of thing, bring in somebody to represent a pattern of previous bad behavior.
Well, listen, usually, I mean, it's a little unusual in this circumstance. There were so many women that really had the same complaints with the same potential defendant. I mean, remember, like I said, when this deposition transcript was unsealed, 60 women came in. The prosecution was looking to allow 19 to testify. Initially, the judge said 1, but as long as you can show some type of common pattern or plan to show that that's what the defendant engaged in, that this was a similar process each time, the judge is open to allow as many as he thinks would support and not become prejudicial. Obviously, when he gets to too many, it ultimately is. But he went to 5 this time, which I think really was really a rough road. It was difficult for Cosby to overcome. It was very overpowering.
All right. Joseph Marrone, lawyer and legal analyst, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
We do too.